we go. Okay, so just to begin with, a quick introduction into COVID. I think everyone here knows what COVID is by now. It's a new virus from the group of viruses called coronavirus. It causes symptoms of fever, cough, loss of smell and taste, and also diarrhea. You can catch it by droplets, which are formed when people speak, cough and sneeze. And if they have the virus and you're stood next to them or near them and you're not wearing a mask and they're not wearing a mask, you can catch the virus. And it can also survive on surfaces. And so that's why we say to wash your hands regularly. COVID kills, and sadly our communities in particular are at high risk of this. But even for those who survive, a large proportion of patients go on to develop irreversible organ damage and sometimes even disability. In fact, 1 in 8 people who actually recover from the initial illness go on to die 6 months later because of problems they've developed as a result of the virus. That's more than 10% of people who have the virus. And this is why we say it's really important to wash your hands, to wear your masks, maintain distance with people who are not in your household, and replace the air in your homes and your workplaces. So who's at risk of severe COVID? Sadly, people from ethnic minority backgrounds are at risk of severe COVID and death. We don't really understand why, but we know this is the case. People who are obese are also at risk of this, and people who have underlying health problems. By far the biggest risk group are the elderly. I say that, but we are actually seeing more and more patients who are young, so 20, 30, 40-year-olds in intensive care and dying from the disease more and more. So then what does a vaccine do? What is a vaccine? So a vaccine works by alerting our immune system, which is the part of our body that helps us to fight infections, to something that it hasn't come across before. So a vaccine takes a very small part of the virus. If we imagine a virus as a car, the vaccine takes just the badge of the car, so it can say, oh, it's a BMW or it's a Mercedes or whatever. So that badge tells our immune system, our body, what COVID is, but cannot make us ill or anything like that because it's not the whole virus. It takes that badge, it injects it into our body, and our immune system goes, okay, that's what COVID is. I'm going to start preparing my shields and my defenses. My soldiers are going to be ready so that if you come into contact with the virus, I can fight it off and I can protect you from getting ill with the virus. We vaccinate millions of people every year and have done for many decades, and vaccines have saved millions and millions of lives. So what's the difference between a medicine and a vaccine? A medicine treats you when you become ill, but sadly we don't have any good medicines to prevent people from developing severe COVID and dying. We do have good vaccines though. Vaccines actually prevent us from getting ill with the virus. So when we talk about the effectiveness of a vaccine, that tells you who's going to get the virus, okay? So these vaccines are up to 94, 95% effective. That means so if we had a group of 100 people, 94, 95 of those won't get the virus because the vaccine will protect them. The remaining 5, 6% can still get the virus, but it will be very, very mild. So they won't end up in hospital with it, they won't be ill with it, and they might not even have any symptoms and know that they have the virus. So that's what a vaccine does. So what are the different vaccines that are available and how do they work? So the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine are both very, very similar. They both work by taking a small part of the virus. Remember I said the badge of the car? We take the badge of the car, the bit of information that tells our immune system what COVID is. We stick it into a drop of fat, inject it into the body, into this muscle, and the immune system goes, oh, okay, there's something new here that I need to start preparing for. So it develops antibodies and T cells. And the first dose of the vaccine gives you short-term immunity, and the second dose gives you long-term immunity, so long-term protection against the virus. The Oxford vaccine works in a very, very similar way, but rather than taking this information and putting it into a drop of fat, it puts it into a different type of virus called an adenovirus. Cannot make you ill because it's inactive. It cannot make you ill or do anything to you that it shouldn't. It just carries the information to your immune system. Your body then makes it into an mRNA. So the Pfizer vaccine makes the process a little bit more efficient, but your body does the work of turning it into an mRNA. And then your immune system goes, okay, I'm going to start building my soldiers and my defenses. So the first dose gives you short-term immunity and the second dose gives you long-term immunity. When you come into contact with the virus, you can fight it off. So who developed the vaccines? The Pfizer-BioNTech scientists were actually Muslims originally from Turkey. These are the ladies that developed the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, and they were insistent that whoever they took the vaccine to, so AstraZeneca, cannot make any profit from it during the pandemic. So AstraZeneca cannot make any profit from the Oxford vaccine during the pandemic. This also means that poorer countries can actually access the vaccine, not just rich countries. The Moderna vaccine works very, very similarly to the Pfizer vaccine. And what you need to know about all three vaccines is you need 2 doses for all 3 of them. It doesn't really matter which one you get, because that provides you short-term and long-term immunity. They're all very effective against COVID. And collectively, they've been tested on over 100,000 people to make sure they're safe. And nearly 8 million people in the UK and about 12 million people in Europe have had the vaccine so far, and we've not had any issues. So what is actually inside the vaccine? The Pfizer vaccine contains 5 ingredients. mRNA, remember the badge of the car that tells you what the virus is, can't make you ill, can't do anything to your DNA, in a drop of fat with salt, water and sugar. That's it, nothing else. Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, remember I said, has an inactive adenovirus that carries the information about COVID, tiny amounts of chemical alcohol, sugar, salt, water and preservatives. Moderna vaccine is exactly the same as a Pfizer vaccine, but it has preservatives in it, meaning you can keep it in the fridge. There are no animal products, no microchips, no fetal cells or anything else in these vaccines. What you see here is what's inside the vaccine. I'm going to ask Sheikh now if it's okay to comment on the presence of chemical alcohol and what this means for Muslims, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me, Bnar?
I can hear you.
Okay, so this is something that pops up always. Haram ingredients, forbidden ingredients in medicine, gelatin and other stuff. I'm not going to talk about haram ingredients in medicine generally today, just the presence of alcohol. First of all, what we have to understand is that just because something is called alcohol doesn't necessarily mean that it is the same substance. Alcohol, you can get very many different types of alcohols: ethanol, butanol, propanol. Some of these, if you consume them, you'll die. Okay, they're used in industrial cleaning. So that's the first thing that I would like to mention. Just because something is called alcohol doesn't necessarily mean that is fit for consumption. Here, what we have is a chemical alcohol, as opposed to naturally occurring alcohol, which in the Quran is known as khamr, the thing that inebriates people and intoxicates people. So it's a completely different substance.
Mm-hmm.
Now the ulama, they distinguish between alcohol in medicine and alcohol in other products such as food, etc. So, for example, in creams and makeup, there are denatured alcohol, which is alcohol which has been processed and is lost its complete quality, and therefore it's no longer haram. So, similarly, the ulama, they distinguish between alcohol found in medicine and alcohol. There has to be a qualitative difference between sherry found in your mince pies and alcohol found in medicine. When it comes to medicine, then the scholars are a bit more tolerant because it's for medicinal purposes. Nobody will take these vaccines and get drunk over them. The other thing one needs to also check is whether especially in food products, whether alcohol, even in a minute amount, it's there because of a preservative, or it's there because of flavoring. So, for example, cakes and other things, or food products, you might get a white wine in there, or red wine. That's specifically for flavoring. That's not haram. But sometimes what you have is you have alcohol which naturally occurs because of kind of fermentation processes. For example, orange juice. If you have orange juice and you leave it out for a couple of days, you will get some amount of alcohol. Bread, you will get some amount of alcohol. That is not the haram alcohol that is mentioned in the Quran and in the Sunnah. And specifically in the case of the Hanafi school of law, the Hanafi school of law is very lenient on alcohol. In the Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about khamr, إنما الخمر والميسر والأنساب خمر, which is intoxicants.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the Hanafis, they interpret khamr very, very in a reductive manner, and they say that the khamr that is being mentioned in the Quran is basically only alcohol that is derived from wine, grape wine, and also from dates. Those are the only two khamr alcohol that is haram. Now that doesn't mean that you can go and drink Carling Black Label, or doesn't mean that you can drink beer or lager. It's just that when non wine and non grape and non-date alcohol are being used in medicine and preservatives, then it just makes it easier to accept that. So I hope that makes things clear, Bnar. You can see that there is a qualitative difference between the alcohol which is found in medicine and alcohol which is drunk recreationally.
Thank you, Sheikh. And just to put that into context, the amount of alcohol actually present here is so tiny. You can, as Sheikh said, you can find naturally found alcohol in bread. There is more alcohol in bread and in yogurts than the amount you actually have in the vaccine, just to put that into context. So thank you very much for clarifying that. So what are the side effects of these vaccines? So all side effects are mild and temporary, and these are the side effects that you should expect to experience, but some people don't have any side effects. I didn't have any side effects when I had mine. My husband had a few of these. Just so you know, we have been vaccinating millions of people for decades, and side effects always appear within the first 3 weeks. There is no biological reason why any of these vaccines should behave any differently. Vaccines have never caused long-term side effects, and in fact, the presence of these side effects is actually proof that your immune system is kicking into gear, getting ready to protect you. So the vaccines are safe. Who will be offered the vaccine first? That's dependent on who's most vulnerable. So this is why this list has been created. So please know that you'll be contacted when it's your turn. Please don't contact your GP, because they're so busy. They have so much that they have to do at the moment with a number of cases, and also they're trying to vaccinate people. And just so you know, there are some scam emails going around asking people to give their bank details. You will never be asked for your bank details when you're invited for your vaccine. You're most likely to receive a letter. You'll never ever be asked for your bank details. So what happens after you have the vaccine? It's really important that we continue to follow the rules even after having the vaccine. This is because it takes 2 weeks after having the vaccine to start developing that protection. It takes that long for our immune system to actually do its job. But also in that time, very few of us who've had the vaccine can still have the virus, but be well with it because we've had the vaccine and it protects us from getting ill. But we can pass it on to someone else who hasn't had the vaccine, who doesn't have that protection, and they can get ill from it. And so that's why it's important to keep following the rules. We also need both doses to get the full benefits of the vaccine. And we cannot go back to normal until at least 80%, 70, 80% of the population has had both doses of the vaccine. This is why it's important to follow the rules when you've had your vaccine. Sheikh, I'd like you to just give us a bit of a summary now of vaccines in Islam, please.
So, in and of itself, if we were to talk about the Pfizer and the Moderna and the AstraZeneca vaccines, then we have fatwas from all over the world which have declared. So we have fatwa from Islamic Portal, we have fatwa from the BBSI, the British Board of Scholars and Imams. We have the fatwa from AMJA, what is it called, the Jurists Association, and many others, also the Al Majlisul Islami, Al Fiqh Al Islami from Saudi Arabia, and others. All of them have said that from an Islamic point of view, there is nothing in the vaccine which is haram. There are no haram additives. The alcohol which is in the AstraZeneca is so minute that it's as if it's not there, and certainly there are no human fetuses in the vaccines. I mean, originally there were some discussions on including in the Oxford vaccine human fetuses, but that was later discarded. So from an Islamic point of view, as far as halal and haram is concerned, then there is nothing in the vaccines which will make it forbidden from an Islamic point of view. And we can present all the references. Ulama have looked over this. The BBSI have actually developed a paper which is called 10 top questions that people ask ulama and scholars about vaccines. The BIMA, British Islamic Medical Association, have also developed that. So from an Islamic point of view, there is nothing in there which makes the vaccine haram. Now, whether somebody takes the vaccine or not, that will depend on their own personal choices, the family situation, and in consultation with their imams, their chaplains, their doctors, and other significant others. Yeah.
Thank you, Sheikh. So just to summarize, the vaccines are safe and they're effective, and they are there to protect you and others around you from COVID. Things cannot go back to normal, as I mentioned, until we vaccinate 70 to 80% of the population with both doses. When I say normal, I mean being able to go to see your GP again for your diabetes, your arthritis, having hospital operations start again, being able to see family, going to the mosque or church or any other faith gatherings, being able to travel, eat out, etc. None of this will be possible without the vaccination. Vaccines do save lives, so please look at correct information when making your decision and protect yourself and your family. Thank you very much for listening. Here is a collage of the doctors involved in this having their vaccines, myself included. Please follow us on social media. We have regular videos and really good resources for any questions you may have. Thank you very much, and I'll pass you back now to Brother Musin.